This episode of Love and Watches is brought to you by the Swiss Watch Company, a family-run company creating quality Swiss timepieces at affordable prices.
Love and Watches is a family-friendly podcast for male and female watch lovers alike. Perpetual Girl and Ranchracer are a watch-crazy wife and husband team who've been wearing and collecting watches for more than 45 years. They enjoy bringing you the latest in collecting, interviews, news, and all things interesting in the world of watches. Enjoy the show.
Hey, Watch fam, this is Ranchracer.
And this is Perpetual Girl.
And welcome to the Love and Watches podcast, the podcast for all watch lovers. Lots happened since our last show, huh? A lot of stuff in the news and in the world and
At home.
At home, yeah. So we'll talk about. It's kind of a. We're going to talk a lot about show cancellations and the effects that Corona or COVID-19 or whatever it's being called is having on the watch world, and then just a bunch of general stuff.
Yeah, I have a news article that I read.
Yeah. And
want to talk about. Is in the New York Times, I believe.
Yeah,
so I'll talk a little bit about that.
Yep, and some new releases from traditionally one of our favorite brands, a couple of our favorite brands, some shout outs and all kinds of interesting stuff today. So it should be a fun episode, I think.
Yeah.
We were at the racetrack again. That was fun last month. One of my favorite weekends of the year where I go and instruct and help new folks get their racing license. So that was a great time. Had an awesome student. She had never driven a stick shift, or I think just had a few minutes of driving a stick shift on the road.
Maybe once or twice in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, and she ended up renting like one of the most difficult cars you could possibly rent for learning how to drive on a racetrack. It was an open wheel, single seater, Formula type car with older gearbox, and she did a fantastic job. It was really fun to watch her progress.
Oh, yeah. She's a brave girl. Very brave woman.
Oh, yeah. A lot of self-confidence, and I hope she continues. That was really... It's always rewarding for me. It's fun to see students that come in and are just fast right off the bat, but for me as an instructor, that's kind of boring, right? There's not much for me to do other than we can refine technique, but it's fun to take someone who's really raw like that, never been on a racetrack, very little experience, and getting them to the point where they could actually get out there and do a race. That was fun. And
like a lot of things, it's a male-dominated industry. Driver school rarely has female attendees. So she being one of, was it 2 women out of...
Well, I think in the whole school, not just our group.
Students.
Yeah, there was, I think, a total of 40 or 50 students between the 3 groups, and there was 4 women, I think, but one of them dropped out, so it ended up being 3 women for the weekend.
So to see the not, it's not common to have a female student, and then she did well, and she has a lot of potential.
Yep. And she had some struggles, but never got down on herself and just kept improving. She's a great listener, and if I told her to do something, she did it, and just really, it was fun. Those are very, very rewarding. It's a fun 3 days. Get to see all of our track family, which is always nice. People are excited to see us. We don't spend a ton of time at the track anymore, so that was fun. That was definitely fun.
Did some watch spotting.
Yeah, you always see some watches at the racetrack.
Mostly the older gentlemen. Everyone's got the Apple
the guys
Watch.
that have a ton of money and are new to the sport but have a lot of money and come in. They're usually wearing some pretty nice watches. So you see Speedmasters and stuff.
I mostly saw a lot of things that were vintage that they had purchased new, like your Bulivas, your Seikos, dress watches, that a one watch man type watch.
Yeah. And actually I had 2 students. My other student was a gentleman who really didn't need much instruction. He had a lot of experience, but he and his buddy have a YouTube channel on reviewing kind of everyday cars. And they have a podcast as well. And his buddy is a big watch guy. So we were talking to him about maybe doing some sort of joint podcast, which might be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah. And I was checking out their channel. It's pretty fun stuff.
What's it called again?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I'll put it in the show notes. I don't remember.
We weren't going to talk about it, so.
Something about everyday cars or something.
Everyday drive. Everyday Drive.
The Everyday Drive. I don't know. I'll check it out and put it in the show notes. So for any of you that are into cars, and I know a lot of watch people are into cars, so you can go check out their channel on YouTube and their podcast. So that was fun. Mm-hmm. But you wanted to give a specific shout out to another podcast that we've talked about quite a bit.
Two Broke Watch Snobs.
Yeah.
They paid me a very nice compliment. I am very honored to have been mentioned on their show, and it was regarding their topic, which was things on Instagram, trends that need to die. I
thought that was hilarious. The title, it was episode 162, I think, is in my notes. But yeah, Instagram trends that need to die. That was pretty funny.
I personally was calling it the Burning Bridges episode.
Yeah.
And I listened to it while we were at the track. I cuddled up in bed in the morning because I didn't have to do anything. And It was great. I got a break. And I listened to that. And it was fantastic. And they paid me a very nice compliment about being a collector and not using my feminine wiles to promote myself or my watches. And they said I had a really great collection. And I think Mike said something of animals.
Oh yeah,
background, which we do.
You definitely have an animal.
I do.
Collection.
There's always room for one more. The friends of the friendless. So I was really honored, and that was awesome to have them mention me.
Yeah, it was a great show that they did, and the topic specifically that they were complimenting you on, because we all see it, right? We see the shots of a watch, and behind the watch is a woman's bosom, right? Just way out there on display, and it's like, what are we selling here, folks? Right. And it just does a disservice to female collectors, because we started this show. Most of the reason for starting the show was to bring the female collector to light, right? And show that there are female collectors out there that are serious about watches. And I think that just hurts the female collector. I hate seeing that. And so that was one of their things that they think needs to die. And I fully 100% agree with that.
There are so many photos that I've looked at prior to their discussion about it. Like, I don't want to get brand specific, but some of them they look at, and the watch, you don't even see the watch. You just see the body.
Yeah.
Like a woman in a bathing suit with this watch on. And even some of the brands, they don't need to use that to sell their watches. And that we've talked about that before with brand ambassadors and all that. And everyone knows our opinion on it. And I kind of think it's a poor way to sell your watch, because then you're associating it with not the watch.
Well, yeah. What are you're selling the watch, or are you selling sex? What are you selling?
Or a celebrity. And
the celebrities, yeah.
What if you don't like the celebrity? Then it's a big turnoff. So that sort of thing is a turnoff for me, because I don't have a problem with myself, but I don't want to use gender that way.
Well, yeah, you're a watch collector, period, right? When you show your watches, you're taking a picture and showing the watch. You're not showing off your body. That's not what it's about. And again, I just think it kind of denigrates the female collector. It's unfortunate, but it's out there. It's done because, frankly, let's be honest, those types of pictures get tons of likes. Guys like it, right? But it does nothing for the female collector. And I think I was really glad to see them call that out, and then it was especially nice of them to compliment you, because that's right. How you approach the hobby.
Yes, so I'm grateful for that.
Yep.
And I don't want to hide the fact I'm a woman. I'm not angry. I'm not upset I'm a woman, or
Well, of course not. Yeah. But that's not what this is about.
It's about my watch.
It's about the watches, right? That's why we're all doing this. That's why we're all in this hobby, and you should be able to show people a nice picture of your watch and not have to add that element to it. I just think it's kind of unfortunate, but it's out there. It's not going to die. I agree with him. I'd love to see it die, but it won't, because it gets the big hits, it gets the big likes, and that's like, what social media is all about. And which is why we'll never have a huge following, probably, because
right.
we don't pull that kind of stuff.
I'm not distracting enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you like me, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks guys. Appreciate that.
Thanks,
that was a really nice, very nice.
It was
call
a
out.
Great podcast too. You guys need to all go listen to it. So
yes, episode 162
flowed really well.
Definitely go check it out. Another thing that you want to talk about, kind of along those same lines, there was an article recently in the New York Times that interviewed 5 female watch collectors. And when I saw it, I thought, this is great. And it was a good article. I mean,
it's very good.
Genuinely 5 women that are passionate about watches and have amazing, amazing collections.
Yeah, I read it recently. It just came out, and it's a very good article, and you all should go read it. They're basically talking about how the demographics are changing, and they talked about numbers since like 2015. I guess reader percentage. They're using Hodinkee as a measurement on this one, and the readers who identified as female in 2015 were 2%, and now it's 15%. Cara Barrett was giving them the information on that. So. Right. And it's like we've been at this for about 3 years now. It's been that long. I can't believe it. So
didn't we start in 2017 or I don't know?
I think lost track. We started with reviews and things like that, and it's been about 3 years. So that's one of the things that initially looking at it kept talking about it, and we've told our listeners about why we started Love and Watches. So there are a lot of watch podcasts now. And there
are a ton. There's more so with saturated.
Women. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, yeah, it's saturated, but with
Very
women,
saturated.
that's coming up, which is great because we're here.
Yep.
We are here, and we're starting to represent ourselves. But when we started, it was pretty much me as far as a small podcast,
right?
The average Joe or Jane,
yep,
kind of a thing. But this article is really good. It talks about 5 different women, very interesting. They're hot. They're what they do for work, what their hobbies are, etc., and their watch collections. Mm-hmm. And I do have to say that these are high-end collectors. These watches are $50,000. They're not me going to a swap meet for $3.
Yeah, Pateks and Vacherons, and I mean
special
really
edition,
very high-end stuff.
Stern and very, very like way beyond Rolex.
And I think that's great, but I think unfortunately that would give the impression that the only women that collect watches are very wealthy women, and that's not true. And I think it would have been neat if they'd included some female collectors that had Seikos and, normal, everyday, normal person type watches.
I agree. And that's actually, nice. We think alike because that's actually in my notes in my column of my thing here. So, I went through this and wrote some notes, but it's the common topic is don't just sell me something with diamonds and make it rose gold, which I've always clung to that as well. We want a watch that is the same as the men's, but maybe a little smaller. So I can think of other brands right now that, boy, I love that watch, but if they could just make that in 37, it would be fantastic. That being said, I truly believe, and even more recently, that there is still of course, there's a huge place in a woman's collection for a dainty feminine watch. Mm-hmm. We are women, and you can't wear a sequined evening gown with a big giant diver like an orange monster.
You could. It would just look a little odd.
Right. And I think a lot of women agree. So I love the feel of putting on a very small, lightweight bracelet watch, depending on what I'm wearing. So I have no problem. There's some female collectors that are no quartz, no diamonds. I only want to wear big watches. That's totally fine. It's what you love. But I really don't think that we have to exclude quartz and diamond watches from a collector's collection. I have a little bit of everything. So let me look at my notes here. One thing one of the gals talked about was discrimination in the watch world, which is a common thing too. And I guess one of the collectors they interviewed is an actual watch in the watch industry as a repair person or in that area. And customers would come in and just look past her head and look for a man in the room to talk to. And I had to giggle because when were we at Couture last?
2018.
It was 2018. Yeah. And we met with a watch brand, a very nice one. They were great people. But one of the gentlemen never even made eye contact with me.
Wouldn't even look at you.
It was so odd. He didn't even look at me and talk to you the whole time. And I kept leaning over and kind of like
you'd ask a question and he'd look at me and answer it. It's like, I didn't ask you the question, dude.
Yeah. I would ask some decent questions and he answered to you. So it was pretty funny. Yeah, then
and insulting.
Yeah,
funny and insulting.
I expected it though. There were.
I know.
I don't remember seeing other women there besides me. And there were women in the building because the jewelry show was going on too, which is a big one. But I was kind of it.
Well, a lot of the marketing folks for the brands are women too.
True. But the people attending like us, it was kind of me. But on the other hand, the same meeting we had, the actual owner of the company came and talked to us, and he was addressing me almost more than you.
Yeah, so he was very cool.
He was so elegant and just fantastic, and we've complimented him. Yeah. We've actually communicated with him to thank him so much for the respect that they showed us. So that was really interesting. And this article does talk about Red Bar and how that has grown and given a lot of people a chance to go. I'm still the only person in our Red Bar. That's
only female in our Red Bar group, yeah.
Yeah, so we're not seeing it. There's more in larger cities, but for now, I'm kind of it. And sometimes I do feel like, though, that Red Bar tends to have a lot of high end stuff. So I don't feel embarrassed about bringing my $3 manual wind swap meet find from the previous week. I don't have a problem with that, but that's not as common, which is okay because people want to look at the new things and find things. But I personally am kind of a vintage person. I do love vintage watches, and I feel like they, as this one person in the article talked about, they have like a soul to them because they have a previous life, which I love. So they talk about that in the article.
She did say, I'll give her this. She said that when she went to that first Red Bar meeting, she was really nervous because at the time she didn't have any high-end watches, right? She had some very basic watches. She was really nervous because most of the stuff you see online on social media channels from Red Bar, a lot of it is very high-end stuff, and she was nervous.
Piles of it, right?
Yeah, piles of it, and she was nervous, but she got there with her watches and was totally welcomed. And I mean, I think in general that what Red Bar, even though the perception maybe tends to be higher-end stuff, we're watch people, right? Everyone in Red Bar groups around the world, they're watch people, and they will accept you no matter what. So definitely go check out your local chapter. Don't be afraid if all you've got is a few $30 quartz watches. If you're passionate about watches, I think it's a great group.
And we bring everything.
Oh yeah.
And our collection, most of the people in our Red Bar group have things that are much more expensive than us. Well,
no, maybe half of them.
About half,
yeah.
Which is still a significant amount. I mean, we've got our Rolex, and that's about as big as we go. But there's some gorgeous stuff at some of our meetings.
Yeah, for sure.
And the fellows are really nice. So it's a good group.
Yep.
But this, the article, the women are fairly well off as far as budget. So they're able to afford higher pieces. Yeah. And it's neat to show that some of them are really passionate about it. And, we can get obsessed about wanting a certain piece and I found it kind of funny. I mean, you all can read it, but one of the gals actually apparently is a surgeon or a doctor.
Oh gosh, I know what you're going to talk about. I was laughing. I
don't want to burn a bridge because this is published it's public,
yeah.
But I guess she was in the middle of a surgery.
Yep.
And got a notice on her phone that a watch she had been looking for was available. And I found it a little odd that she actually was looking at her watch during surgery at all.
Her phone.
Or phone. I'm sorry. She could be looking at her watch, actually. But no, I mean, one, looking at your phone while you're doing a procedure and then leaving and buying the watch.
After reading, I'm terrified to go get surgery.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to have surgery for a while.
It's like she went out, stepped out of the room and bought a watch while the surgery was going on.
Or make sure that your phone is in the locker.
Yeah, I mean, I guess doctors do step out of surgeries for long surgeries, but I just thought it was funny. It's like she stepped out of her surgery to buy a watch. I was like, wow.
That's pretty intense.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if the person she was operating on read that article.
Okay, so
that was interesting. But so the point is, great to see articles like that. Would love to see more inclusion of normal, everyday female collectors that don't have Pateks and Vacherons and $100,000 plus watches. So
I'm still
baby steps, right?
Yeah. and I'm still going through this here. One of the gals loves Speedmasters, and I love Speedmasters. I mean, I'd love to have a whole collection of Speedmasters if I could, because there's something, especially the coaxial, the autos, chronograph, that rotor, it spins a little differently than everything else
alive.
I have. And you'll put your hand down after moving it and it kind of keeps going. So it sort of talks to you and it has like a little life of its own, which I love about it. And let's see here. I think that's, there was one other gal who mentioned her very first watch that she got when she was a young woman. Mm-hmm. And she got it from her parents. And she was kind of disappointed at the time because it was a little small lady's watch. And she's like, well, wait, I wanted a big men's watch, which I thought was funny because I know when I got my high school graduation, my small Seiko teeny quartz that I still have, the gold one, yellow, which I loved and still do. I do remember coveting my big sister's watch that she got that was a tank style, large rectangle with a black croc band. So it was more of a tank style.
Probably a Bulova or something, right?
I think it was a Seiko, but it was larger, like a Cartier style tank,
right?
Or a maze shape. And I was like, oh, I kind of really wanted that one, but that's okay. We're all good. So I thought that was a really interesting little anecdote.
Yeah.
So it's just
for sure.
That's how collector minds work, whether you're female or not. But it's good. It's really good. They talk about their likes, and some like vintage, and it's a good article to read. There's a lot of data in it, so I hope I haven't spoiled it too much. So we can always say spoiler at the beginning of on our description.
Yeah,
before,
whatever.
So
go read the article.
Or not.
It's a big,
good.
long article, lots of stuff in it.
It is.
We pointed out the high points, I think. But like I said, good to see it. Progress still needs to be made on how female collectors, I think, are presented to the world.
Right.
But overall, I think it was good.
It bothers me a little that there's a lot of emphasis given on, this perception that you have to spend a lot of money to be taken seriously as a collector, as a woman or a man, but mostly as a woman. Why can't you collect other things?
Yeah.
It's I'm not talking about going as far as, not spending over $10 for a watch, but just more variety. I mean, this is the extreme high end of prices of watches that most of us and our followers on our site, they don't afford, they can't, that's not in our budget.
And it never will be in our lifetimes.
No.
And maybe that's a function of the audience of the New York Times. I don't read the paper. I don't read
Manhattan.
it. I don't know much about it.
Correct.
So maybe that's just a function of their clientele. And
that's
so
their target for that article.
Could be, whatever. But so good, could be better. Moving on.
Got it.
Cool. Okay, unfortunately, this is becoming a regular thing on this podcast, but I'm going to go on to my Seiko rant.
Do we want to talk about Corona?
We will, but I'm gonna go on to my normal Seiko rant. As you guys all know, we're big fans of Seiko. It's a great brand. It's
a lot of people
been
love
around
Seiko
for so many years, and it's always been looked at as that entry level. You want an automatic watch or a nice quartz,
a quality.
And you don't want to spend thousands of dollars. It's Seiko, and they're in all the big department stores, a lot of local jewelry stores. It's just been a great brand. But in the last 2 to 3 years, I think personally, they're pricing themselves out of their target market. And this, I think a lot of it comes from the fact that, Grand Seiko's been split into its own brand. Same here in the US. So there's a Grand Seiko US brand separate from the Seiko parent brand. And they're trying to take Grand Seiko more upmarket to compete with, Rolex and Omega and some of the higher end, I guess, brands, IWC, those types of brands. And they feel that to do that, they also need to take the Seiko base lines higher, like Prospex. And we've seen this over the last 2 to 3 years. They're releasing Seiko Prospex divers that cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And it really drives me crazy. And I don't know. I don't think there's a market. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm way off base. And there's tons of people who would rather spend $7 or $8 on a Seiko than on a Rolex. I don't know. And it's not to say that Seiko's worse than Rolex. It's just they don't have that kind of brand recognition for those what used to be considered entry-level lines like Prospex. So they announced 3 new watches, all divers in the Prospex line. First up, we have the 1965 divers recreation. It's the SLA 037J1. This is an homage to their first dive watch, was the 62 Moss. And I think they've already done one. This is yet another homage to the 62 Moss. Stainless steel case, 40 millimeters, so decent size. It uses the 8L55 movement, which is their high beat, 36,000 vibrations per hour. But it's regulated to plus 15, minus 10. That is nothing to write home about. I mean, it's fine, but most micro brands watches I can buy for $200 that have a basic movement are regulated to better than those numbers. So it's nothing spectacular. I think it's a 55-hour power reserve. So, you know, a couple days, it's pretty standard. Comes on a rubber strap.
No bracelet.
No bracelet. $6,300, folks. I mean, I just about fell out of my chair when I read the articles on these things.
That's a lot more money than my Oyster Perpetual.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say. It is crazy. And then the next one is their 1968 Professional Divers 300 meter, the SLA 039 or 039J1. This pays homage to the first ever Seiko high beat diver. Same movement, the 8L35, so same regulated time. The case is stainless steel. It's 45 millimeters. It's a big watch, right? This is like kind of the standard Prospex watches.
That's not a lady's watch either.
Oh, no, for sure it's not. Again, comes on a rubber strap. Wait for it. $6,800. We are now approaching $7,000 for a plus 15, minus 10 regulated automatic Seiko Prospex dive watch. I mean,
tell me again, is it the same high beat? Did they use the same movement from historical watches?
It's their modern high beat. It's the 8L55.
So it's basically a new movement?
It's been around for a while.